Rogue Actions. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Heinzie up in here in the house. What's going on, Heinzie? You have a good weekend? You watched a lot of football?
American I did, man. Football? I did. Good morning, Cubs. Good morning, everyone out there. Obviously, Green Bay did some work over the Packers. I'm aware of that. No, it's been some crazy fun. How's BYU going, brother?
Hold on. Did you just say Green Bay did some work over the Packers? Like Green Bay?
No, sorry. Packers over. Sorry. Packers over the 49ers, wasn't it? My mistake. Sorry.
The Steelers.
It's late here.
The Steelers.
Steelers.
It's okay.
Fire.
It's okay. You're Australian.
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh.
For a second, I thought you were saying Green Bay played the Packers, and I was like,
holy... I tried. How about an A for effort? I'm sorry, guys. Cannot take me anywhere. It's late here.
Both my teams won. I'm still undefeated in my college team, and I'm actually a Seahawks fan, and we beat the 49ers. So we took care of the 49ers.
Nice.
Always feels good to beat those hippies up there in San Francisco.
Good work.
So
good work.
All right, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to start with our mini moment. We got a meme of the weekend. This is going to kind of lead to a little conversation about Territory Wars matchmaking. Say the line, CG. The TW matchmaking system isn't working as intended.
Yay! Yeah, it's wow.
What are your thoughts? So this is anecdotal at best for me so far, but I actually had people post their matchups in on my Discord server, the hotbot comparison, and a staggering amount of matchups look to be still pretty lopsided. I've seen as much as 30, 40 plus GLs difference between guilds.
Yeah, look, I mean, GLs are a big thing now, and you need to get the GL count even on the matchmaking 100%. I've seen 75 mil GP differentials in some matchups.
Wow,
so you see that GP differell, you know that you're struggling on legends.
Is that joined GP?
Yeah. So it's pretty rough. It really is. But it's look. I had a good matchup. I think there's certainly been some. Overall, I think like everything, I think it's a 50-50 split. I think a lot of communities, a lot of alliances did get an okay matchup. I think they're pretty consistent with what they had in the past. But yeah, there's definitely been some anomalies. I'm on the thought that we kind of need to expect that there's going to be a few little hiccups along the way when it comes to matchmaking still. I hope they keep working on it. But like anything that's new, guys, it needs some time to settle, and certainly it's worked off data from zero as well for the first set of matchmaking. So I know that they said that the matchmaking will count wins going forward as well now and things like that. So maybe it'll settle down. It just needs a war or two to get a little bit more settled into the system. I'm not quite sure.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point that the wins and losses are going to be factored in. I would really just I feel like there's got to be some kind of catch-all for Galactic Legends. Like, this is the most discrepancy between GLs that we're comfortable with, especially because they're carving out a lot of those free-to-play non-GL counters to GLs and making it more you need GLs to beat GLs. Obviously, there's still ways to do it, but for the most part, they're taking a lot of those away. So if you're going to do that, like, you got to respect that if we're going to have a fair match, we can't have huge lopsided GL matchups. That just doesn't sit well with anybody. Even if it's about the win-loss record, like you shouldn't have that to begin with. So anyway, we could talk more about that later. I know we're going to talk about Territory Wars in yours. So we got to talk about the Galaxy of Heroes burnout, Heinzie. With the latest update that came with the State of the Galaxy post, I thought that there would be some rejuvenation of excitement for this game. I'm a little bit concerned that doesn't seem to have happened, and I'll show you this poll here that I ran on Twitter. And latest, let's see here, we've got 483 responses on this poll since this morning, and I just asked a question, where's your motivation at to play Galaxy of Heroes right now? And we've got only 16.4% saying they're motivated. 4.3% would describe themselves as pretty, amped to play the game. And then the rest of the community, over 60 or over 70%, almost 80% of the community is suggesting, actually that is 80%, suggesting they're either at low motivation or completely burnt out. There's more people that say they are completely burnt out than people that say they are motivated or amped to play. That's a problem.
Yeah, it's not great.
Heinzie, I think there's a lot of contributing factors to this. Obviously, Conquest is a big part of that kind of leads to that burnout. I also feel like territory wars, the changes with territory wars, more, teams to face now, more pressure to face those teams than we had before. Combined with Conquest, I think it's just pretty bleak right now for a lot of people. What are your thoughts?
I think when you count these in, these are some of the changes we've had. Okay, so we've lost a lot of the Galactic Legend counters, and with the territory war changes, they certainly are a huge loss for us, enormously, because now we're relying on the only chance of having an even contest is an even matchup with Galactic Legends on either side of the fence, and we know that we're not going to see that. We just know it's not going to happen. So that certainly makes it very difficult. So we've lost our Galactic Legend counters. We certainly lost Jedi Knight Luke, which was, obviously a gift to the community a little while ago. So that was a bit of a kick as well. We've then had a Conquest now that, as we all know, no one's really happy with it. It's just way too much grind. It's certainly very, very frustrating. And now add to that a territory war that basically adds double the amount of teams to both set and attack, which means you need to spend twice as long on a territory war than you used to.
Yeah.
The only positive thing coming back our way is that we're simming assault battles. Yeah. That's it. Now that isn't enough. It's just not. And no. I know that people that obviously do speak to CG directly, who have direct contact with them, have been discussing this with them. They know. They have been saying, guys, we've got to fix Conquest. It's too hard. Not too hard. It's too grindy. It's too time consuming.
That's a problem. It's not difficulty.
Yeah, it's not difficult. I'm sorry. I chose the wrong words there. It's very time consuming.
I don't even think I'm going to get the second to last box this territory war, because I just and I could have maxed out, but I was just like, you know what? I care more about studying for my big counseling exam that I have coming up. I care more about football this weekend. I care more about hanging out with my family and playing with my kids than pulling up my phone and spending hours on Conquest. And almost every stream I was playing Conquest. Like when I was working, I was playing it. But in my free time, I'm just like, I can't find the motivation to have this be my priority right now with how much needs to be devoted to it.
Yeah,
we've beaten that horse dead, but it's interesting to see that. I really felt like with the post that came out for the State of the Galaxy, I thought this was going to kind of rejuvenate interest in the game, having those big changes to the gear crunch coming our way. But maybe part of it's because we're not seeing those changes yet. Maybe those changes don't feel sufficient, or maybe it's too little, too late.
I don't think it's too little, too late, because they are aware that changes need to be made. And I think that's just unfortunately going to take a little bit of time to enact. I believe that we've got one more Conquest left, and I believe it's going to be very soon before it launches. I think it'll be not back to back, maybe around the same sort of time frame as we just had from the last one, which was a 4 or 5 day window, if I'm correct off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to get that again. Which will then bring their roster and their calendar back up again. And I think it's probably been more frustrating and certainly more grindy because we have had them back to back, which we're not going to have in future. We have to remember that. Like now, we've got 3.
This one felt insanely challenging to me because we just finished the last one. I was like, oh my gosh,
straight into it again. Yeah. But we're going to get that one more. Let's be clear, guys. We've got another one coming to the same, and then it will go back to one a month. And that will make it certainly a lot easier. We will have a little bit more time up our sleeve, a little bit more breath once the calendar is up and running. But they want to get Maul out there reasonably quickly. I mean, we all do. We're all going after Maul. I mean, let's be honest. That's what it's about right now. Maul, Razor Crest, or Commander Tano. Right? That's what you're going after, straight up. And the sooner that we get these guys with 3 in a row, the better, instead of waiting a whole month without them. Right. But I understand the frustration and the grind. I really do. And I'm very, very sympathetic to a lot of people like myself and many others that just don't have the time. Right. We understand that. CG understand that too. Let's be clear. And I'm aware that they know. Yeah. With the people that we speak to that are close to the people that matter. And they are fully aware of that. But yeah, something definitely needs to be done. But Territory War... Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that in my video.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. I think that's adding to the burnout right now, unfortunately, which is kind of not where we want to be. So, community is pretty burnt out right now. Pretty burnt out. We're over 500 votes right now, and those percentages are holding. So check out my Twitter @CubsFanHon to see the final result of that poll. It's still got about 22 hours left for people to get in there. I'd imagine that'll go over 1,000 votes total. So last thing we got to talk about, I just wanted to take a second to respond to a lot of community feedback that I've received. Heinze, you may have received similar feedback with your interview on Crumb. And I want you guys to know, first and foremost, like when you guys send me feedback in videos and comments, especially when you do so without telling me you want me to die, I tend to listen to that feedback. And one of the biggest items of feedback I got on the developer interview was that people wanted to see more pushback on some of the questions that I was asking Crumb. And I actually think it's pretty fair feedback. Something that I want to try to do a little bit more of is if an answer is given, to maybe not take every answer and just move on, but to maybe question a little bit deeper on those things. I think sometimes I just want to move on to the next question. But I also want to be clear on something. When I am bringing a guest on my channel, whether it's a developer or not, my goal will never be to make that person look bad or to make any kind of agenda, to push some kind of agenda on that person. And so that's something I feel like people come to these developer interviews sometimes and they want to see Cubs fan Han stick it to CG or something like that. And you're just, if that's what you want, just don't watch any of the dev interviews, because that is never going to be my goal. I'm not bringing a dev on to my channel as a guest to try to make them look bad or to shove things down their throat. Now, I will be honest with the devs about how I'm feeling, which I've done several times. I told Crumb blatantly, I do not like what these changes look like, but I'm also going to be open to hearing his perspective and take on that and make my opinion objective rather than, or make my opinion subjective rather than having it be just, I'm going to take this at face value and be pissed no matter what, if that makes sense. So I thought maybe it's an interesting discussion point. I just wanted to take a second to respond to that, because it's not my style to be rude or douchey to anybody that I bring on my channel. And when I have a dev on, nothing I say in an interview is going to change anything. Like, I'm not on a crusade to change anything in the dev interviews. I'm just trying to get more information out of them so we can have more context as to what's going on.
Yep. I think the ultimate goal, really, guys, is mutual respect. I think that's the best way to put it. Now, if we look back to 12 months ago, okay, you could not find anyone that worked at CG. You could not get close to them. You could not get a conversation from them. They went underground.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to torch. I don't want to torch that relationship.
Right? Hell no. Look, okay, it's been 12 months since that point, and I think we all agree that there's certainly being a little bit more forward in communicating with the community, and we need that to continue. We've been asking for it. You're not always going to like what you hear. Let's be clear, guys. Straight up. All right, this is the Australian in me that just calls a spade a spade. If you want to find out what's coming out, you're not going to find out, because that's not the way they release characters. They will do a special release with whoever the heck they like. Cubs has had one with Executor. Operation Metaverse has had them. All the other guys have had releases. That's how they're going to do it. Yeah. If I have a developer on, or Crumb, for instance, which is a great guy, and he takes a lot of heat for this community, let's be clear. A lot of it is out of his control. Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. And he's a great guy, honestly, 100%. But he's out there joining me on a Friday night at 11 p.m. when he could be spending time with his family, answering questions.
That's after hours.
After hours, okay? Yeah. So he's out there on a Friday night when we're all done. We're all, finishing and winding down from a big, heavy week. And he's out there answering questions for us when he doesn't need to do that.
Right.
So you know what? People are going to hit us and say you're not asking tough enough questions. We're going to ask questions we know we're going to get answers to. Let's be clear. So there's no point asking a question that they go, move along. It achieves nothing.
Exactly. And a lot of these, here's the thing. If there's a question that you think is tough that needs to be asked, come tell me what question you want me to ask on the next interview. Almost every question I asked Crumb in my last interview, I pulled directly from the community, and I would classify a lot of those questions as not the easy questions. We asked about the money consideration that comes into gear grind changes. We asked about, breaking up guilds. How this is going to break guilds up. Are you guys okay with that? But we're not going to ask questions like, how do you sleep at night? with what, like, if that's what you think a tough question is, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to ask questions where, and here's another thing that I want to be clear on is I'm not going to ask questions that are just for clout.
No.
Right? So if I could come on,
you
like,
burn bridges.
Yeah. Like, I had somebody tell me once, like, why don't you ask him about Arnold and why they're not talking to Arnold? I'm like, I have 1,000% confidence that they will not answer that question. So if I decide to ask that question, which I could easily do, I'm literally only asking that question to say I asked the question so I could check it off the box. That's not, like, that does nobody any good. Like, maybe it makes some of the community feel better that I was ballsy enough to ask the question, but I'm not looking for clout with the community when I do the interviews. I'm just looking for information to be brought out so we can have more context and information about what's going on. I'm not just going for style points. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. So, look, it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do, Cubs, and you're damned if you don't. You either speak to them and you might not hear everything that you want to hear, or you can, really rant and rave, and then they go, well, why the heck would I bother doing it? Why would I bother taking my time out to spend it with you guys when generally they don't bloody well have to?
Yeah.
They don't. But they're doing the right thing. It's a PR exercise. It's sales 101. They want to promote the game and they want to do the right thing and connect with you guys. And if you don't like what you're hearing, well, I'm sorry, but we're going to do the best we can. And we're going to ask the questions we can get answers for. Not stupid ones
like that
honestly,
point.
we won't get a response.
Yeah, if there's a question where I know in my mind, if I ask this question, they are not going to answer it, then I just don't see much of a reason to ask that question.
100%. Yeah,
I just don't. I'm looking to ask questions that I know I'm going to get answers to. And maybe that, you know what? Maybe that makes me a bad interview. Maybe I'm not on 60 Minutes right now, exposing some big thing right now. I'm just an average dude in a studio, a makeshift studio that I put together in the spare bedroom in my house. Like, that's I'm not Bob Costas, okay?
Yeah, but on the flip side, I mean, if you're going to be aggressive, you're not going to get the answers you want anyway. Let's be fair. And you're not going to get, repeat openness from the community. They don't have, from the developers.
Yeah.
If in customer service, if you're rude to a customer, how do you think the waiter's going to help you? Do you think they're going to help you more or less? Let's be honest. How's that any different?
Yeah.
It's just pure.
And look, it's not to say that we're saying we're not going to ask tough questions.
Of course not.
I want to ask
them if they
I
want
to ask those, but I'm going to ask the questions that have relevance to the subject that we're talking about, and that I have confidence that they're willing to address.
100%. 100%.
Plain and simple. So
anyway,
a little bit of a rant on that. I just wanted to set community expectations, but I mean, that's not to say, like, I think one of the fairest items of feedback that I got is that I went back and watched it, and I really don't push back much on anything, and I'm okay with doing that a little bit more and thinking about that a little bit more, and so I do appreciate that feedback. But I also I don't see myself doing it just to do it, if that makes sense. Like, if I think there's more to this question and I could pull more out, then I will do that. But if it's just I'm just gonna push and try to make Crumb look bad right now, like that's not my style. No, I don't see how that benefits anybody.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So anyway, good discussion, Heinzie. We got more to talk about over on your video. We're going to go over Territory Wars and the best characters to take to Relic 9, the subject everybody and their mom is wondering about. So I think the answer is nothing, and I'll tell you why. So anyway, we'll get out of here right now, guys. Love you, fam. Like the video on your way out, and as always, my brothers, don't forget.
Bye.